1, 2, 3, 4. I gave you all I had to give, and I done the best I can. So now it's up to you to finish what I began. Yes, I will always love you, and I'll be there just for you. So in all that you do, my child, to yourself you must be true. So promise me that you will fight for what it is that you believe. No matter what you do in life, it's in the giving that you'll receive. Wherever the road may take you, those you meet along the way, promise me that you will count your blessings every day.
And a very good day, a very good morning, or whenever you happen to listen to this, a very hearty hello to you. Jason Hawes here on American Faith Today. Glad to be here. Hope you have been doing very well as we have crossed over from November into December. December 4th is when I am recording this anyway. And for those of you who have been listening to American Faith Today on Blog Talk Radio in the past, this so far has been a little bit different, of course. And I have been recording these shows because it fits in, I suppose, better with my schedule. I am kind of trying to feel out things and I don't want to say play with things, although maybe that's what I'm doing. But it is a feeling out process for me. And I would have hoped to perhaps record a show or do a show at least every weekday as I'm doing a Bible study on the book of Daniel here. I have not been able to do that. I have been trying to do them as often as I could. And whenever I would get a moment, and I happen to have a moment right now, and so I am recording the next study in this book of Daniel. And hopefully this isn't too much of an inconvenience for those of you who listen, enjoy listening. I would think not, or I would hope not, as long as you are able to access it, whether you're listening live or whether you're listening to it recorded over on Blog Talk Radio. A lot of people listen to the archived version of the show anyway. And I will, I'm sure, get into doing some live shows and so forth. I don't know about phone calls or anything like that. I think I have to, on this platform, do something with Skype, which I've never done, or Google Hangouts or something like that. But right now, it basically works out best for me to record these. And with that said, I want to add that I've recorded 2 studies now on the book of Daniel. And the second one, I unfortunately did not broadcast or did not share very many places. And if you happen to miss that one, if you caught the first one, great. If you're catching this one, super. But if you missed the second, then obviously there's a gap there. Now, you should be able to find it, I would imagine, no problem. Just if you're on my page, which, I always post a link when I do share to a particular show. I'll also post, to try to make it easier in this case, I'll also post just a general link to my show's page here on Spreaker. And hopefully you'll be able to find all the shows, all the studies that way. If not, and you're having trouble and you're able to get a hold of me in some way, whether we are Facebook friends or even on the American Faith Today Facebook page, or whether we congregate on a message board or forum of some sort, or if you have my email address, just, I'll certainly try to help you out if you're having problems accessing a particular show. But anyway, in the book of Daniel, we're in the 2nd chapter, and Nebuchadnezzar, I'm going to go back and cover some verses that I covered in the last study. But Nebuchadnezzar, again, has this dream. And it's a dream that greatly troubled him. It's a dream that he could not recall, but it is a dream that is very relevant to us today. In this second chapter, as mentioned, as covered in the last study, this was an interpretation. Well, let me back up here a little bit. Nebuchadnezzar had his dream. He called in the sorcerers, the Chaldeans, the astrologers, and the magicians, hoping and believing, and again, at least hoping, that they would be able to interpret the dream for him. Well, naturally, because they were only human and had no faith or belief or connection to the true God, they were not able to interpret the dream because Nebuchadnezzar could not remember the thing. And they at least were honest enough to say that only the gods, plural in their worldview, that only God could bring such a thing to pass or be able to do such a thing. And again, they had no connection to the true God, but Daniel did. And as did Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael, and of course they got together and prayed, as covered in this second chapter earlier. And the dream was revealed to Daniel, both the recalling the events, the imagery, and the interpretation of it. And Daniel now is revealing the dream and will reveal the interpretation to Nebuchadnezzar. It was given for Nebuchadnezzar's benefit, but it was also given for your benefit and my benefit, as Daniel makes known that it refers to and applies to the latter days, which we're in. So, Daniel chapter 2, let's pay attention, let's read this, let's study and discern this, and let's ask our Father that those who, if you've ever had any cloudiness, any uncertainty, any trouble with this dream or with this chapter, what it means, then let's ask our Father to open the eyes and open the ears of those that He would have their eyes and ears be opened, uncloud some minds. Let's ask our Father to do that in Jesus' name. Now, Daniel chapter 2, and I'm going to pick it up here with verse 31. Daniel explaining things to Nebuchadnezzar. Thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. I mean, it was an awesome image, an attention-gathering image, even though Nebuchadnezzar actually forgot what the image was and forgot the details of his dream. It was still something to behold that obviously troubled him greatly, to where he could no longer sleep, and to where he desperately wanted to know what the dream meant. Again, the sorcerers, Chaldeans, astrologers, and magicians couldn't tell him, but God could, through Daniel. And again, this image in Hebrew, it can refer to an idolatrous image, and the root word of it in the Hebrew, which you can find in a Strong's Concordance. I don't have my notes here in front of me for some reason. I must have taken them somewhere else. But recalling what I wrote down, the root of the word, teslim, refers to a shadow or shade, which can mean to cover something up, to hide something, also an illusion, and a resemblance. And so it is that there will be much deception with the one world system of the Antichrist. There will be, it is a resemblance, it is a repeat, really, of the same governmental system, the same strategy that he used in the age that was, in which he fell, rebelled against God, and drew 1/3 of God's children to fall with him. It is a cheap copy, a mockery of the reign and the kingdom of God, of Jesus Christ, that will take hold and will come to pass at the seventh trump, at Christ's second advent, after Satan returns, or after Satan shows up, I should say, at the sixth trump, to have his day as Antichrist instead of Christ. But anyway, Daniel is going to recall for Nebuchadnezzar and explain to us what this dream was, what the imagery was. 32. This image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass. 33. His legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. Now, a couple things with this image. First of all, it is very top-heavy. In terms of, we'll say in terms of monetary value, certainly you go gold to silver to brass to iron mixed with clay. You're talking about degrading value, but you're also talking about you're going downward in terms of weight, in terms of mass, density, specific gravity. All of the support, all of the mass, all of the weight is at the top of the thing, which won't work. Just as a person must have a solid foundation to move around, to get around. A person needs to have strong legs under them and feet, obviously, to carry their torso and to carry their mass. This image, shaped like a man, needs to have a firm foundation, and it, quite frankly, does not. Iron and clay will not mix, and again, that's not a foundation that gives any stability to stand on to begin with. The foundation for a Christian is that solid rock of Jesus Christ and His Word. And that old song, "On God the solid rock I stand, all other ground is sinking sand," and that parable of one man who built his house on solid rock, another who built his house on sand. Guess what? The one who built his house on sand, that house, of course, didn't stand, didn't last. And so it is that we'll find that this system, that this image, with such a weak, fragile foundation, will not stand either. Verse 34. Thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. In other words, again, it went for that weakest point, for that weak spot, the feet, the foundation, and it broke them to pieces, and we'll find that it completely toppled, destroyed the entire image from Nebuchadnezzar's dream. Now, but who is this stone cut without hands? If it was cut without hands, it basically means that flesh man, has nothing really to do with it whatsoever. And we've had this election again, and before this election, during this election, and after this election, you have a lot of talk about globalism. And you have people who are thinking and hoping and wishing that somehow we're going to beat back and defeat globalism and the globalist and the New World Order. Well, again, I would respectfully say that man is not going to do that. Again, it's this stone cut without hands that ultimately destroys globalism, or destroys the one world system or the New World Order. But until that, it's going to come to pass, because it will be God's will for it to come to pass, to test His children upon the earth, to see who's going to get swallowed up by it, and indeed who will stand against it at that time, not so much just because we hate globalism, but because of who runs the thing, which is Antichrist, which is to say Satan, and also his children, the children of Cain, the Kenites, and again, his children, who set the thing up. But again, it's the stone cut without hands that delivers the blow to this thing, that destroys it. And that stone cut without hands can be read of, I believe, in Psalms chapter 118. And I'm going to start here with verse 14. The Lord is my strength and song, and is become my salvation. 15. The voice of rejoicing and salvation is in the tabernacle of the righteous. The right hand of the Lord doeth valiantly. Now, let me ask you, who sits at the right hand